we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming, and we will begin with roll call.
Rob Keller.
Here.
Carolyn Langwalter. Donna Kramer. Ken Bresnan.
Here. Sue Wilson.
Esker, and Sue Wilson, and Lori Abernathy are absent.
Sue Wilson is joined telephonically.
Sue. Okay, sorry.
I'm here.
Thanks, Sue. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the good news from Mr. Sadoff.
Well, I just had a few things in. We're sort of between activities and not started up with some, but just made mention of the boys baseball team. They finished their season, had a 30-win season, made it to the sub-state, lost to eventual state runner-up Johnston. Put a few pictures in from Rotary where Adam Pandian came and talked. He'll be a senior at Indianola High School this year, and he went to a Rotary Youth Leadership activity this summer and represented Indianola and talked about his experience there. And then I just saw a few pictures from band camp on Twitter and put those up there as well. Of course, since then, we've had a very successful Warren County Fair wrapped up and the Balloon Classic, and several weeks in now at Irving, and very good start to the school year there. So getting ready to get everything spun back up, but there's a little bit of good news for this month.
Thank you. Any information from other board members? Any reports?
Yeah, I went to with John with the Iowa Association of School Board Fiscal Management Seminar, and most of it had to do with what you can and cannot do with I call COVID-3 money, but they call ESSER as they work on that. It's pretty much what Jana has known all along and has been telling us. There's really nothing new on that one. There was a little, I thought Jana knew everything, but she picked up something, I think, on English language learners. So now she knows everything. That was the one thing she didn't know. And the concern coming from a lot of school board members and staff is the legislature always states as its goal in this thing to reduce property taxes. And there's a fear, whether it's justified or not, I don't know, that one of our funds that we use for fixing and repairing buildings, the physical plant and equipment levy, could be something that's looked at. So that's just something we want to keep in our heads as it goes.
Thanks, Ken. Anyone else have anything? Any other board members? Sue, anything? All right.
No, I'm good. We're just continuing, obviously, to gear up for our mental health crew to come in and get back working on kind of what our wellness and goals are for this year with that committee.
All right. And do we have anybody here to speak this evening?
I don't have anybody signed up. Does anybody want to?
Right. Next, we'll have our consent agenda.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion made by Carolyn to approve,
I'll second it.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hi.
Motion carries 6-0. And we'll move down to G1A, the ESSER 3 plan.
Do you want to give a little background on that, Jana, and then see if we have any comments?
Go up, Ray. Keep on. It kind of explains we have two specific amounts of money that we will receive, or we are allotted from the federal government for the rescue plan or the elementary and secondary emergency plan. The amount for the regular amount our allotment was about 2.1 million. There's a piece that is for learning. They're identifying it as accelerated learning because we lost part of that year. So they call it an accelerated learning. That's about 500,000. So in that, we have to try to identify where we're going to spend those funds. So the Department of Ed, through the National Department of Ed, has requested that we give a framework of where we think that those monies will be spent in a very generic, it's very general, that was in the board packet that was posted on the website. And then the board we'll offer time tonight for public comment, for anybody that has anything that they see, they have questions on or concerns, or are we missing something? That's kind of it in a nutshell. Art, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
So what Ray is showing is what was shown on the website, specific areas that we had to address through the Department of Ed.
Any comments by any board members on this? Okay. Any public comments? Any comments by the public on this?
The listing, as you can see, is, where one of the big pieces that the board approved last month was devices for K through 5. Also some staffing requests that through the administration have risen to this piece. I think there's an extra counselor, possibly, one of the other staff members that.
We had some
Some
intervention, people at the elementary level for reading and math interventions, counseling. There's a couple of positions that are necessary as you add devices, a digital learning support person and a tech integrationist.
And our goal, one of the goals is if we are able to spread that over 2 years, we can try to get it so we can get it into our budget. Then if we need to continue it the next year, with no funding, we would bring that into our budget. Gives us 2 years to find ways to do that, so.
We did add a district nurse position too, right, as we were heading into COVID as well, so.
Okay, hearing no comment, we'll move on. We have the letter B, the district developed special education delivery plan.
Sarah?
We have our director of special programs here tonight, Sarah Baker.
The
You want to come to the mic and talk?
more than anything.
Then they will hear you at home well too.
This is, in your packet tonight, is the updated district delivery plan. We talked a little bit in the fall about how we dug into this to make sure that it was serving our district needs. And this is the updated version. It's been to a parent and administrator committee. It was available for parents to look at. So this is kind of the final step to look for your approval. It's very similar to the previous plan. I would say the things that have changed the most would be that we went through the different buildings and updated their programming. So that's accurate in there. And then just made sure that everything that we were doing was captured in the document. So, is there any questions?
So there's nothing, no major change, nothing majorly new.
Just a comment, not really a question, but one thing that Sarah has outlined here that's really important in the special education world is the continuum of services. And we do have a very good continuum of special ed services. And then also something that internally is really helpful to us, and Sarah was using this last spring already, is the matrix in there to look at caseloads and make sure that we're adequately staffed building to building. So those are a couple elements of it that, from a practical standpoint, are really helpful.
Those major, you feel good on those?
The matrices, I don't want to change them now because we used that when we looked at adding a staff member at Whittier. So I feel like it's doing a nice job of keeping a pulse of what we need. So I'd like to continue as is. We would review the plan every 5 years, or if there was like a significant change. So if we had a huge change in numbers or different programming was needed, we would look at the plan again. But I think it's serving our needs right now.
Any other questions from board members for Sarah? Okay. Thanks, Sarah. So we need to vote on this.
Okay, I'm gonna move approval of the special education delivery plan.
A motion made by Carolyn to approve this plan,
Second,
Seconded by Ken. Any further discussion by board members? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Next is the 2021-2022 preschool handbook.
You saw the changes in the bulk of the board packet. The actual handbook was attached as well. There's very minimal changes, as you can see, within that.
I'll move approval of the changes to the preschool handbook.
Motion made by Ken to approve,
Second it.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by board? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next is our curriculum committee meeting report.
I think you guys have all, I have this, I have a hard copy, but you've all seen the, I don't know if you have any questions for Annette about any of it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, unless you have, yeah.
Yeah, the only question I had was just, I was looking at the English language arts. Just, it looks like starting at 9th grade, maybe we've dropped 9, 10, 11 for the 2021 in comparison to the rest of the state. Not by much, but just enough where I like to be on top, I guess. And just concerning.
Yeah, and so my comments in the minutes were that when you look at grades 9, 10, and 11, their scores are within the range of the state scores, but those are definitely the area that we need to take a good look at. And these have been now sent to all the building principals. They'll have some analysis tools that they'll start using, and we'll go through those and take a look, even though it goes back to 2019, different students, and this is the second time they've given this assessment. We'll start to take a look at strength areas and possible things that have caused those strength areas and how those can be replicated, but then also in those areas of concern, what's going to be that approach. And we'll try to tie that into with what we're taking a look at with the ESSER 3 funding, with at-risk services at the high school. So the personnel that might possibly get hired in the future, how can we target them in on those areas also?
And I think that was what my comment was gonna be, is I was kind of pleasantly surprised that there wasn't some big shift over the last 2 years because of what's happened over the last year and a half. But to that end, it's like, do you think this tells us that we need to concentrate more on the high school kids with the COVID impact or the remote impact? I mean, all of that.
So in starting this is
simple
my
as that?
third year coming into this position, and it shifted a lot with COVID last year. And so what I'm learning and we're going to work on is going in with each content area team and taking a look at their whole programming, 9 through 12, and what we're offering and where that alignment is with the Common Core standards. And just ensuring that all of those are being addressed, but then to the instructional shifts that have occurred, like how should we be teaching social studies? What are some of the inquiry type questions we should be asking in science? Where are we at with that instructionally with them too? I think another bonus would be that we have 2 middle school teachers who will be instructional coaches at the high school who have that content and knowledge of where the kids are coming from. And then hopefully they can support the teachers in that way too, to maybe understand, okay, here's where they were at there and what they had been learning, so we can address any of those gaps going forward into the high school. But definitely we want to get it to where 100% of our kids are proficient. Because this is for the Common Core, and it's not where you're striving to get 80% proficient, which is sometimes what you're trying to do with your curriculum when it's measured by other, like, fast data. This is the basics of what we want every kid to learn by the end of their grade level, is what this is to measure. So we need to get 100% of our kids moving forward into the proficient and advanced ranges.
So whatever testing we used to look at this, it would show where they were weak in those areas maybe? What areas they were weak?
They continue to develop reports, since this is still a fairly new assessment with the state. They continue to put out different forms of data. Last year, we only got reports like in domain areas, like clusters of information at the student report level. It wasn't at the building and district level. So we're gonna go back in and see what else have they developed this year, and they'll continue to push out some of that information to us. But unfortunately, what they provide is this at this point. So we're gonna have to take a closer look at, and maybe a sampling of the student reports to say where are we at within these domains, which line up with standards at the high school level. So
it's kind of hard for me to hear everything, but is it okay for me to interject now?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to say in our curriculum meeting, we did talk about what a nice job Annette and her team are doing to also acknowledge those that are maybe lacking a little bit, but also those that we still need to challenge a little bit and keep moving them forward on their education journey too. So that isn't always shown in these, but we did talk a little bit in depth about, okay, now that we've kind of got a strategy to try to, really, really catch up those that need to, but then also paying attention to those that need a little bit more of a challenge, or to meet them where they are in their education process as well. So I just wanted that, probably wouldn't have come up in just normal, but wanted to say that our administration teams continue to balance that on both ends. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sue.
And I thought the scores looked really good, especially for the year we had with kids only being in school till 1:30 half the year. I thought they did an amazingly good job.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that, because
Really,
although we'd
really
like
good
everybody
job.
proficient and think it
Really
didn't
wanna
happen,
commend the teachers.
what it's been through, what the teachers have been able to pull us to this level is amazing, and they should be complimented, on that. There's a long way to go, but for what we were doing, what we had to go through, they've really done a lot.
Well, and I think a lot of it too is getting our kids in front of our teachers in a physical setting. So I give a lot of credit to the teachers that have had to walk both sides of the fence for a long time. But I think that having our kids in the seats in class too has a reflection in these scores as well.
I think, Ben, you had asked at an earlier meeting, like, are we seeing results of that Bridges curriculum that's been implemented? And it's hard to pinpoint if that's something in particular. But even when I tried to put some points in there about math for that, and as we saw, for mathematics, the advanced category has increased at third grade from 18% in 2019 to 33% this go around. And grade 5 mathematics, that advanced category is 9% higher than the state score. And so I think there's movement there, so we hopefully keep seeing that, and we'll take a closer look at it too. Hard to pinpoint that is the Bridges part, but I think we're seeing that trend, and that's been the biggest change. So hopefully that's where we're getting that impact, so.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
And then Laura Ingalls Wilder is going to participate in a collaboration with the Department of Ed and the University of Minnesota. It's called Fast for Success Reading Partnership, and there's just a small cost of $4,000, and it's an intensive ongoing training for the building principal, Ashley Nitsch. Did you say Sarah Baker and someone else?
Sarah Baker will be on that team. Kevin Schlomer, who's one of our consultants from the AEA.
I couldn't have that.
And this is one of the things specifically listed in the application for ESSER 3 funding that the state has listed as something being very, very important. So ESSER funding can be a part of that, and Amy Jo will be sharing that out at our admin team so we can distribute that learning of what they're trying to tighten up on for that accelerated learning.
Yeah, and then Amy Jo will share out what they learn at this with the other principals and staff. So they're the only ones that will get the training is Amy Jo and
Is there a reason we picked that school, or does it?
It was a real late application opportunity at the end of the year, and the middle school had also applied. We thought maybe we could get some, from elementary to middle school studying going on, but they said they were overwhelmed with applications from the state, and so I don't know if it's because Laura Ingalls Wilder got theirs in first, or just because it was elementary. Sometimes they go by size. They want small school, medium schools, large schools.
And then the only other things we talked about were the House File 802 in relationship to curriculum and the digital learning environment, DLA, in relationship to the teacher leadership roles. And that plan's in 3 parts. The vice management section, Ray and the principals are going to do that part of it. Is that right, Ray? And then decide who can take their, not iPads, but their Chromebooks home, and then I've got Ally down here, but she's not in that TLC position anymore, right?
Yeah, she's not a TLC coach. She's in the technology department under Ray.
Right, so she's not gonna.
But she'll be a part of our committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was this past year.
They're just,
too.
and that plan's just all in development right now until they come, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Donna.
Yep.
The time frame on those appointments again, right?
We're told they'll be here in August, so as far as the timeline on getting them actually out to the classroom, that's one of the things we need to decide is how quickly we can get those out and get the teachers what they need to be prepared for that.
And then you guys will be teaching teachers how to use the technology and all those kinds of
Exactly,
things.
they'll have quite a bit of learning to do.
Yeah, there will be, yeah.
Devices. So if that timeline holds better than last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Thank you, everyone. Next is the Finance Committee meeting.
Were you intending on walking?
That's exciting part. Take the whole
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a great presentation, I just didn't know.
It is.
I don't know if I want to go
It's
through
really-
it step by step, because it's pretty self-explanatory, would you say, or anything that you want to touch on? The first piece, I think that we discussed that this information we received from a company called Forecast 5 Analytics, and then I'm able to get that data the way we want to. We can choose, this is, when we chose this data, it is five districts up and 5 districts down from Indianola, so it's across the state, which is kind of nice to see what others do. But in that first one with the enrollment, there's a blip in our free and reduced count in 2018. I think it's an error. We've contacted them. I haven't got anything changed on that. So, but it gives you how we look, and then the next slide pretty much looks like how we compare to these other districts that are close in our size. So, I don't know that we spend a lot of time. I mean, we could, I'm happy to do that, but I don't know if you can already do that.
Does any other board members have any questions on it? They feel good.
Good, easy to see information.
Yeah.
Yes, John, and the different ways you presented it is good for my brain. So thank you for that. Thank you. It's very simple, and it's, great information. So thank you for the time you put into that.
Sure. So it is lengthy, but it kind of gives, and it's mainly from, they get information from FY20, which is a year ago, and FY21 is kind of a mix. There's never a great time to pull all the data because it all is coming at different times. So enrollment comes in October, budget is in March and April, and so and then fiscal year end is July or June. So you gotta take the time and go with it. So
Just seems like something we should have easily available for
if people have
times that it comes
questions-
up, because this is the type of information
I think
sometimes.
Right.
this is the kind of data that'd be really helpful if you have prospective board members. You know, we have a board election coming up and they want to see a snapshot of district financial health, taxes, enrollment. All the different measures you've picked are very good indicators of district health. So.
I think you guys talked about PEPAL, but
Just the PEPAL, and we just review the PEPAL and same budgets monthly, so that hasn't changed. It will change coming up as we close our year out the next month or so.
Right. So we can move on from finance to facilities.
Do this one, Ken, and you can. I'll take it. So, facilities, the gym and auditorium, the gym updates are complete. The East Gym, We went and looked at it last week. East Gym and North Gym, they look quite drastically different. East Gym almost looks brand new, and pretty excited for the public to get in and see the new floor design on the North Gym. It's very bright and colorful. Auditorium is moving along. The painting's nearly complete. They're working on getting the seating back in and carpeting. But it's going to look really nice. Excited for the public to get in and see all of those. Anything else on those, Ken?
Well, I will add, on the auditorium, as we toured, we came out then into what I call a gallery. I don't know if there's another name for that, between the cafeteria where everybody comes in and then goes into that. And then Bernie and John explained that the budget for the auditorium costs are about $100,000 less than we budgeted. What would we think about carrying the same color, coordinating your same color paint from the auditorium out into the gallery and recarpeting it? Also pointing out a problem that there are with those two sets of steps. That seems to be where we have a lot of accidents, stuff getting through. I don't know if that takes board, I don't think it takes board action or anything, but it seemed to make sense to the three of us.
What do you mean by
that were there.
steps, like those,
I mean,
from the
into end of
cafeteria?
From the cafeteria down, yeah, as you go into the auditorium.
Yeah.
And they're kind of, you know, they're sort of at an angle.
Yeah,
It's a different setup, yeah.
Ballpark estimate for that would be under 50,000, so to get new carpet and new paint. Part of that is McCoy's has a grant for paint that I think the paint would all be free. So,
The important part of that, like Ken said, is even doing that additional work overall, it would still be under the original estimate of the auditorium work, so. And that carpet is, what did Bernie say, that carpet's almost 20-some years old. It's
It's not much.
no.
We probably should have thought
It's
of
a
that.
high traffic
Yeah,
area.
high traffic area, there's stains on it and things like that.
It
And
wasn't in your boots
Yeah.
in the winter. I mean, it's.
probably due to be replaced, so. Outside of that, we talked, the task force members have been identified to help move the future potential high school projects forward. You can see the list of them there. Art was able to reach out to those 10, and they all have accepted, and I believe their first meeting is later this week, is that correct?
Thursday, yep.
So, very good group of individuals that I think will bring some good ideas to the table. Also, we talked about the auxiliary building site. Talked about another potential location for it being north of that parking lot, kind of where the soccer tribe is, and then getting rid of the tennis courts that would be on the south side of the middle school, the older tennis courts, and then turning that into a green space. So essentially it would be replacing, you wouldn't be losing green space, you'd be turning the tennis courts into green space and putting the building on the north side of the parking lot.
And those tennis courts were set, were planned to be demoed and become green space. And we did one more patch.
We did a
that
patch that actually held up.
Held
so
up
they've
quite
stayed
well.
longer than they should have.
They're not in great shape now, but we haven't addressed it again. So that was originally slated to be demoed before now, but we kind of got some extra time out of them.
So would that be, would we be getting rid of soccer space? Because I mean, what you're taking isn't what you're giving, right?
You'd be trading a
It would be
space,
almost a
basically.
trade-off. Yeah.
you may encroach on some of the parking coming in from the north end of the parking lot might be taken for part of the building. They're,
Lot or sits on the green space?
I would sit kind of on both. I mean, I think it would kind of,
So where would the buses park?
I think they would park on the south side of the building, I believe. Right now, they're laying all that out. I haven't gotten it back from them yet.
So you're kind of saying the green space we take would be the building, and then the parking for the buses is the parking, part of the parking lot?
If that's how it lays out. Again, they do the test. They do the test with the site, and I haven't heard back. That was, they knew to do that Wednesday, and I haven't heard back.
That doesn't interfere with future expansion for the
No.
Actually gains green space that you could get down the road. It would be easier because you're gonna have to demo those tennis courts anyway.
So that's just an option. I think we're still trying to discuss other options as well with the Little League.
Yeah.
Just trying to come up
Exhaust
with
every avenue?
Yeah, come up with some other
Yeah.
So, and then finally, Envision, the architecture firm we're working with, has just asked for, we originally came to them with a scope of a $10 million bond on the auxiliary building. Then we've talked about the additions to the high school, which is what that committee has been formed for, and they've just requested not to exceed amount that was $62,000 be bumped up to,
2 million, you mean?
or
To 90, yeah.
no, to 90,000. Just basically with the change in scope of what we're asking them to do. And so we kind of left it at, wanted to discuss it with the committee members first and then go from there.
Yeah, pretty much. I was in no hurry to change that until we actually got going on something.
So,
I thought we kind of went in with them with both. I mean, we kind of were asking about both. So I'm kind of curious why they thought there was a change. I mean, we wanted ideas. We're not acting on anything right away.
right.
So what's the change? That's what I'm
I
kind of
just think their
struggling
thought
with.
of is if the scope of the work changes and we move forward.
If we
that-
do.
If we do, then the scope of their work is obviously
Oh,
going to
yeah.
change. So the not to exceed value is going to have to.
Okay, so okay, because I just thought we went in knowing,
that we were.
yeah, that we wanted to have vision about where the high school or whatever could be, not knowing where that's going, if it's 10 years from now or whatever, but just to have insight into that so that we could make appropriate decisions that knew that, or, had that in mind. Okay,
And I think Ken said it appropriately. Let the committee meet and see where they think to go with this before we would commit to anything.
but they're, okay, I hate to beat this, but they're only asking that if it expands, and we're not saying it's expanding yet. The
That's
group
my
would assume, okay,
yes.
that makes more sense. Okay.
All right. Any facility projects update that we didn't? Just
I think we just kind of covered them
Everything.
under the facilities committee, yeah.
Okay. Next is the board policies.
We have this slate for second reading. We did have another board policy committee, but we're still doing some tweaking on a couple, so they weren't ready for a first reading yet. We should have another set for a first reading at your second August meeting. Was there anything that came up on these that we'd ever had a first reading on?
As we reviewed them, there's been nothing changed since we did the first reading. Therefore, I'll move second reading of the policies listed in our material. It lists all the numbers.
Motion made by Ken,
Second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion on these policies by the board? All those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next is the 2022 Iowa Association of School Boards legislative priorities.
You have the full legislative platform there from ISB, and obviously that's very, very broad. They do like schools to identify specific local priorities and then report those to them. So I would welcome ideas from the board of what you see as the priorities are.
Well, I feel the same as last year. The first priority is mental health still. Anything more can be done, needs to be done. But secondly, in the email I think I received from you, were there a few things that you thought we might be of importance to us?
Yeah, I did mention state and federal special education funding. That's probably one of the biggest unfunded mandates for districts, and that's why you see the huge special ed deficits that you see. And right now, the only mechanism we have is to try to recoup that the following year, but then that's local property tax, direct impact on that. For example, we had a special ed deficit of $725,000 or so last year, where that's what it cost to provide everything in those individualized education plans that students needed, and the funding fell far short of that. And we're actually quite attentive to that, to trying to be efficient. I know a district our size has a $3 million special ed deficit. So it's a definite issue. It starts with the federal government because originally they were to pay 40%, fund 40% of that through IDEA, the Individual with Disability Education Act, and the federal government's never funded more than 17% of it. So we're behind to start. So I think it's worth talking about. I don't know the exact thing that the legislature would figure out or how that could be improved, but that's a big issue for schools. Another one that we haven't felt as much as some, I've been hearing this for probably at least 5 years, teacher shortage, and some states have been through it or still experiencing it. Iowa's really feeling it now. And I was just in a meeting where, with the Board of Educational Examiners, where they asked superintendents that were going to start the year with an unfilled position to raise their hand, and the room was loaded with hands in the air. And there are fewer students right now entering our teacher prep programs across the state, and we all know how trying things have been lately too. So I do think the Board of Educational Examiners, the legislature, the governor, they're aware, they're working on some things. During the pandemic, there were some things relaxed a little bit in terms of substitute authorization, allowing 20-year-olds to sub instead of 21-year-olds, allowing people with an associate degree or 60 hours of college to get this sub authorization, relaxing the consecutive days they could sub. There have been different things that have been done. Some of those are reverting now that we're in a new phase of the pandemic. And there are other things in place in terms of how teachers can get licensed, especially for shortage areas. But that area of teacher recruitment and licensure, I think we've been relatively untouched by it because we're a great place to work. We pay very well. I mean, those are things that help. But that's something I think to keep our eye on. And then one that is just kind of a constant is having timely and adequate funding. So if you look at the supplemental state aid, there have been different proposals. One thing that ISB has proposed is to kind of put the formula on autopilot if the legislature doesn't set state supplemental aid early enough to help schools with their budgeting, that it would revert to a formula. That used to be on a formula and not set every year by the legislature. And then there are some dates in their platform, that we need to know 14 months ahead of time. John had talked earlier about the data not matching up. It's really difficult when you're trying to do your budgeting for the next year and you don't know what your state supplemental aid is going to be. So those would be other things. I agree with Ken, mental health, you have stepped up as a board, and we as a district are trying to do everything we can through both board designated funds and through the ESSER 3 funds. But that's going to continue to be, something we have to keep our eye on too. So I think any one or all of those 4 things are good areas.
Well, I'll second the one about, I call it special education money, probably outdated. But if you're referring, please don't try and find it, Ray. On some of the material that John had just presented us, you'll see the growth we've had in students that need the special services. And we're up around, it grows every year. So our deficit will grow every year. And I think one of the things was a comparative thing, and I'm watching all the other districts that have the same thing. So this is really going to be a problem as they try and, well, first of all, we have to fund it as it is. It's needed, it's good. Most places do a very good job, I'm sure. But this thing can kind of blow up if we don't keep it as a priority there, So that definitely would be a second priority with me. And no problem listing the other 2 that he mentioned.
I agree with Ken on both of those two. That's the 2 that I was.
Yeah, I have a question about the teacher. When they sub, if a person can do a long-term sub, is there still a rule about they can only sub 4 days, or, I mean, what's happened with that rule?
It depends on if they just have a sub authorization, or I think it depends on how they're certified. And there is a limit, they can't go 10 consecutive days in one assignment.
That's
I
what I
believe.
thought, and I didn't know if that rule was still in place, or what was happening with that.
Yeah, I think that is in place.
But the long-term, that falls under a different category then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, long-term sub is different, and to be a long-term sub, they have to have a different certification than just an authorization.
Right.
Yep.
I'd still like to see like school safety, I guess, on the list. Just even though there's a lull in that, it feels like, I mean, maybe in the activity, I guess, over the last couple of years, but.
Well, I think we had really good plans and intentions, and then COVID hit last year, and it kind of limited what we could do and meet. But, I know that we've discussed it. You had a tabletop exercise.
We have one this week.
I think it'd be an appropriate time to probably revisit it. We have a new sheriff, and we're likely gonna have a new police chief at some point, so it'd probably be an
Rob,
appropriate time to revisit.
Yeah, go ahead,
you just
Sue.
asked about safety.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
Oh, I think you just asked about this, but I agree with Ken on the priorities, but I also want to just make sure mental health and our safety is up there too. So I think that's what you just said, Rob. I just wanted to make sure that we still continue to focus some of our stuff on the trainings that need to happen to keep our kids and our staff and everyone safe.
But we're kind of talking about things to send to the IASB. It's not like,
Right.
like safe, I'm not disagreeing at all, but I'm just saying
Right.
that could be our top priority, a total top priority, but still like trying to push the state a certain direction.
Right.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Yep, no, you're right, the two are.
It's kind of a local thing to do in some ways unless there's
I'd
funding or
have to
something.
read their platform again to see what they say, if they have, how well they are defined on school safety. Do you remember, Ben? Is that?
I just had that portion pulled up. It's just, schools must take a holistic approach, providing schools with resources, quality leadership, united partnerships, security plan, the things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with that at all either. And, something like, I mentioned supplemental state aid, that's always there. It's always an issue. That doesn't have to be, a leading priority of this board. It doesn't have to be called out as one of your priorities. That'd be an easy one to put aside,
But collectively, what you're trying to do is tell ISB what they should lobby for.
Right, yeah.
What the districts feel they need to push on.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to, whether they listen to us collectively or not, but that's what they're asking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do think there's always going to be a certain amount of lobbying on the money piece too,
Yeah.
the supplemental state aid, so.
So can we agree on mental health and special ed funding for sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can
What would you guys like for a couple more?
certainly put safety in there.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone, safety? And then, is there 4? Is that what you choose?
Well,
Timely money.
Yeah, you can.
As I said, supplemental.
If you wanted to do something with teacher recruitment licensure or supplemental state aid, one or the other, if you don't, those are things we're going to be concerned with, working on anyway, but they don't have to be called out as a board priority.
I think teacher recruitment, although we're not feeling the impact of it now in the district, it doesn't mean we may not in the
It's
future.
still tough to get math and
Future.
science
Well, we
teachers
do. I mean,
around
in the
high
shortage
school.
areas, we still feel it, and I guess,
Some of them.
we're filling positions with quality people, but we're probably seeing fewer total applicants too, just because of a smaller pool, so. Yep, I think up to 4 is what they say, so.
Well, I mean, I kind of hold back to what we struggle with all the time is we're trying to set budget without knowing the money. I mean, it's silly, and it's against the law technically, right? But they just keep doing it. They don't give us the answers until, So I think that's something we should push on the state, follow the law.
So we have mental health, safety, special ed, and then what, do you want teacher recruitment or supplemental state aid, one of those?
I was asking if we could do both, but you say.
I think
I think we can do 4.
I think they give you 4
Yeah, I
spaces.
think they asked for 4.
Okay.
Who would like teacher recruitment?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
State aid, we're always gonna do
I'm
that.
fine with that, yeah. So that we could have more.
Okay. All right, teacher recruitment. Do we need an official vote on this, or?
Yeah, I think let's have board action approving those 4, please.
I move approval of the 4 priorities to be submitted to the Iowa Association of School Boards.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Kara. We'll give it to Sue.
Yeah. Pay for effort.
I got in there.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. All right, motion carries 6-0. Okay. Next is the board calendar.
Facilities, I may have a conflict with. I have to double check though.
So do I, so we'll circulate between the 3 members some potential dates.
We have HR in the morning.
Yeah,
It's you, me, and
you and I and Lori.
everybody else good. Has everybody been able to let Mr. Sadoff know, like, if they're able to attend that first district day?
Is that the 20th?
It's the morning of the 20th, yeah.
Is that Friday?
Yeah.
I can come for a while, but I can't stay for the whole morning. I leave for Kansas City that day, so, but I can come for a little bit.
Can you, yeah, think you can come till like 9 or? Because then I will have had a chance to introduce you and thank you and give a welcome back to staff. Well, the keynote starts around 9, so that'd be a good natural breaking point if you can make it till then.
Well, I hate to miss you though, Art.
No, you won't miss me.
Oh, I won't.
You'll just miss our expert
Oh, the
speaker.
guest speaker. Oh, okay, okay.
I'm gonna say I'll probably be there until 9,
Okay.
unless something happens between then and now.
No problem. And just that day, I'll just seek me out because I just want to introduce the board members who are able to be there and recognize you, so.
Sue, were you able to come?
Yes, I'll be there.
Give up for it. Yep.
All right. Anything else on that board calendar? Next regular board meeting is August 23rd. Okay, and then we move on to the next board agenda. The only question I have for you guys is whether we would like to entertain a discussion about the American Indians as our logo and nickname for the school district.
You know, I'm not at a point where I feel any need to do that. You know, I've heard from 3 people is all. I feel no pressure in the community as such, that they want to tackle this as a community issue. But I'm really stuck, and I've just heard from 3 people, so that's not enough for me to want to do anything for the rest.
Sue? You're sitting between Ken and Ben, so that's why I said you next.
Yeah, you know, I think this is a hard one because I feel like with the people that have reached out to me, with everyone that is wanting to change, you have somebody that approaches with a very deep history with the cause too. So I don't know. I'm really impartial on this one. It's hard because I think we're gonna end up 50-50. So I've heard from people that think we need to change it, and from people that said, please don't. It's part of our history. So, yeah. Sorry, that doesn't help.
Ben?
What are you?
It would be just a discussion about how we would approve, so I didn't want the discussion this evening, but I'd like to, if you guys want it on the agenda for next time, it would be the board discussing how do we move forward with whatever we're gonna be doing. Do you guys want to discuss that as a board?
make it. I mean, I kind of fall in line with Ken. I don't haven't heard from an overwhelming amount of people that that's something that is a strong community desire for us to discuss right now, so.
I'm gonna jump in with a question. I know at one point we had asked a little bit about, is it something you could put out to the public in a question, like in an election? Did you ever find out if that was?
I did, yeah, I found out, I got 2 answers, one from Warren County Local.
Were they
said,
consistent?
"Yep, put it on there," and then we talked to our attorney and he said no.
No? So we're probably, that's not really,
Yeah, it sounds
Okay.
like something that we need to decide as a board, so
yeah.
if we go down that road.
So
Donna, what do you think?
If, I mean, I feel like the community should get to have input into this, and we should probably provide some sort of education, whether we have a forum. I don't know if us discussing it is really going to.
I was thinking more the discussion next time would be us then deciding, what road are we gonna take? Are we gonna allow the community to speak? Are we just
Okay,
gonna
I
decide it
see.
as a board?
I wasn't sure what you were,
Sorry,
where you were
yeah.
heading with that, because we had talked about if we had,
Yeah.
a forum where someone presented or.
Yeah. This is just the first step to get it onto the agenda if we want to, or not.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
You wanna ask us, this is your community hearing.
Right.
Hold up real quick.
Well, I think we'll stick with the board for right now, and then if we wanna go down to the community,
I think it's
we'll
gotta
try
be a little
that.
bit more open than that, than
Yeah,
just.
we wanna be able to.
Yeah, I think if you were gonna have a town hall, community forum,
Right.
whatever, you would, it would be well publicized, anybody, give people an opportunity to speak their piece, and,
Right.
so.
I mean, I feel like we should give everyone a chance to say their piece, so.
And I think, and I don't want to put words in Rob's mouth, but that first conversation, if the board wanted on the agenda, that wouldn't be, that night, you wouldn't be making a decision,
No.
No
yes,
decision.
we're gonna change it, no, we're not. It would just be more, okay, what are our next steps? Do we want to take next steps? Do you want to have a community forum, that kind of thing. So I think it'd be more discussion and potential game planning than decision-making, but, so.
I guess I'd be okay with that, just to have, get some more input from the community, because I feel like our job is to, represent the community, and that's where I was falling in line with Ken. I just haven't heard from enough
Yeah.
people to make an informed decision one way or the
If
other.
I had
It's
heard
been
from
pretty
more people,
limited.
I'd be interested. From where I sit, I haven't heard much interest in the subject at all.
That's kind of where I'm at. So, I'd be interested in hearing more and going from there.
So my opinion is, it's kind of funny because even my house is divided, so it's definitely, I understand that. Anyway, I think as a board, we should talk about it because I know we have to be careful about how we follow procedures and all that, and people have talked, and we are required to listen and not, unless it's on an agenda, not talk about it. So I think there's some frustration there. I feel like, from what you clarified, just to even talk about what we want to do as next steps, if any, and do it in a public forum where people, I think that is the good next step,
Yeah.
even if the step is that we're not doing anything until we, I think that is the next obvious step
Okay.
to follow.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next time. It'll be on the next agenda.
Maybe
As a board
clarify that,
discussion.
that there's
It'll
not
be-
decisions made.
No decisions made. It'll be a discussion on how to move forward with hearing from the community.
Right.
Will not be hearing from the community. It'll be a discussion on how to move forward to be able to hear from the community. So we don't expect to hear from the community that evening, I don't believe, on this.
No.
I would just expect them to want to listen to what we're saying.
Yes.
And then after that,
Yes.
figure out.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Just a minute. I sent, we have other?
Yes.
I sent to Sue and to Ben and to Donna and to Rob information about the National School Board Association
yeah.
Convention. I encourage, we can afford it, I would encourage
It's full.
people to go. If you'd like to go, I think it's time to start a discussion between individuals, and I guess Bart,
But it's all full, Ken.
Pardon me?
The
It's
one in
full.
Georgia's full.
It's filled to
It's
max,
Yeah,
Are there, are
because
they,
they reduced the amount of people that are available.
they're not doing remote?
They don't want us?
No.
Well,
I
it's
mean, maybe they
full.
wanted us, but
Yeah,
they just don't
'cause
get
it-
us.
yeah, 'cause
I would echo Ken's line of thinking. I think if you get an opportunity every now and then at least to go to a national conference, it's pretty enlightening, to speak with people across the country. And everybody's dealing with some similar issues, but approaches are different. It's fertile ground for new ideas, so
I'm surprised they don't have a remote option.
Yeah, they didn't say anything about it.
I hadn't,
It
Because
just
I
said
looked too.
it's
I
filled.
looked.
I hadn't looked into it yet, but
They were planning it, so it was.
So I should read things before I send them out.
All right.
Or click.
Well,
still-
there was
we
two
still
others
tried.
underneath it, but
Stop.
it wasn't, there was one in Washington, I don't, what were the
Yeah,
other two
and
that
one out in
listed?
Oklahoma.
Was that
I
was
do hope too,
Oklahoma?
put on your calendar, this will not be as exciting for you, but put November 18th on your calendar if you're at all available too. That's the state
The state, right.
association meeting, and there's, the day before, there's some things for board presidents, delegates, things like that. The main day is that Thursday, November 18th, and hopefully we can get a good contingent up there. So,
They didn't do that last year, right?
no, they had some virtual spread over different times, and so.
With that, Rob, I'd like to commend you. I think this is the first meeting under an hour we've had in a long time. Sweet. Very, very well done, and I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by by Ben,
I'll second that.
seconded by Carolyn.
Ken,
All
gave
those
that
in
up.
favor say aye.
Boy, is thunder.
We're done.
I know.
Good having you, sir.
Haven't had a gold star. Since I- Any chance